Former Vice President Joe Biden does a surprising about-face on a hot-button issue in the presidential race. Biden now says that he wants to get rid of the Hyde Amendment, which blocks federal money from being used for abortions in, for instance, all cases with an exception for the life of the mother, as well as in the case of rape or incest. He explained this change at an event last night.
Circumstances have changed. I've been working through the final details of my health care plan, like others in this race, and I've been struggling with the problems that Hyde now presents. If I believe health care is a right, as I do, I can no longer support an amendment that makes that right dependent on someone's zip code.
Kate Bedingfield is Deputy Campaign Manager and Communications Director for the Biden campaign, and we certainly appreciate you coming in to talk to us about this.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So 24 hours ago, Biden was on the record. He was still supporting the Hyde Amendment. Walk us through the anatomy of this decision change. This is a big change of heart.
Well, look, this is not a decision about politics for him. It's a decision about health care. You heard him say last night that Roe is under unprecedented assault in this country. We see Republican-led state legislatures, by the way, following the lead of President.
When did this when did this become an issue about health care for him and not an issue about religion or morality?
It is an issue about health care access. And you heard him say that last night. That Roe is under unprecedented assault. You have Republican-led state legislatures following Donald Trump's lead, by the way, who said that on the campaign trail that women who had abortions should be punished, trying to cut off access, predominantly impacting minorities and women in under communities. And so the vice president feels like in this moment of crisis on choice that he does not want to be for closing off any avenue for women receiving the health care that they need.
That has been the argument of people who support abortion rights for quite some time now. We've seen a number of significant moves in many states. It's been going on for months before Joe Biden got into the race. So why this change now? Because if you're trying to convince people that this isn't about political expediency, which is part of Joe Biden's hallmark, or as he would hope it would be, then don't you have to explain substantively how he changes his mind from Wednesday to Thursday on an issue as significant as this? It crosses so many lines. Healthcare, yes, for Democratic primary voters, but for maybe general election voters, and the majority of them, it's also an issue of morality and religion. So what is the substantive explanation for how he changed his mind?
Look, this was a tough personal decision for him, but the substantive explanation is that the moment that we're in now is a dramatically different one.
Did he speak to advocates? How did he do it? Did someone give him evidence? What kind of evidence? Did he speak to advocates? Did he speak to women? What was the impetus? What was the inflection point that changed his mind?
Well, look, but wait, I think the other thing that's getting lost here is that he has been an advocate for women's choice for his entire career. I mean, look, in the last 50 years, Democrats have successfully kept one Republican Supreme Court justice nominee off the court. That was Robert Bork. And who led that fight? That was Joe Biden. And that was a fight about choice. That was a fight about
We're talking about the Hyde Amendment.
So to suggest, but I think to suggest that this is somehow out of step or out of sync with the way that he's viewed this issue is actually not true. I mean, this is an issue for him
But changing from Wednesday to Thursday. Explain to us how this happened, because did he speak to an advocate? What was the thing that changed his mind?
You've heard him say. He said last night he is looking, as he's thinking about his health care plan, which he'll roll out in the coming weeks, and he's thinking about access, and he's thinking about how we ensure that in a moment when choice is under fire, when Republican-led state legislatures are coming after choice, how do we make sure that every woman who needs access to health care gets it? That's going to be a piece of his plan when he rolls out his health care plan. And as he was working through that, he decided that in this moment of crisis that he could no longer be for something that would close off those avenues to women.
All of those conditions that you just explained are as they were on Wednesday when NBC News published their story saying that Joe Biden, according to his campaign, still held this position, which he is now against the Hyde Amendment. So what is there some, he said, look, he says I asked you this because he says in his book, I've made life difficult for myself by putting intellectual consistency and personal principle above expediency. So are we in this moment? What is the process?
You heard him. Well, you heard him say it. I think you've asked the question a lot of ways. I've answered it. I mean,
I don't think you've answered it, Kate.
He has looked at frankly the crisis that we're facing.
What was the thing that made him? He's looked at the crisis.
This was a personal decision.
So no one did anyone in the campaign talk to him? Did they give him any evidence? Did they show him the polls on where Democrats, likely voters in the primaries, stand?
This is a personal decision of his. It was a tough decision. It's one he wrestled with. You note he's written in his career about his personal struggle on this issue, and it's one that he at the end of the day he makes personal decisions for himself about where he's going to be, and he looked at like I said, he looked at the crisis that we're facing on choice in this country and made that decision. And that's authentic to who he is. He's somebody who says what he believes. He's somebody who said,
Then why doesn't he explain it more than he has?
He did.
He has not explained the process.
You played the tape.
This is a serious issue. He has not explained his evolution other than to say that he has changed his mind.
He explained exactly why. He said because of the issues that we're facing now, and as he's thinking about access to health care in his health care plan, he said both of those things last night. And he is somebody who will always say what he thinks and what he believes. That's exactly what he did last night.
And he thinks that that's going to fly as he is interviewed here in the coming weeks for his interview as a sufficient answer for people who, let's say, Democratic primary voters who are now aligned with the position that he's in, but have questions about whether he's truly authentic, considering his past record when it comes to being more nuanced in the issues of abortion.
I don't think any voter has a question about Joe Biden's authenticity. I think people know him, they know who he is, they know his values, and they know that when he's facing a tough decision, when he's tackling a tough personal decision, he is going to speak candidly about how he's thinking about it. And that's exactly what he did last night.
Okay, I want to ask you about another issue that the campaign has had at this point in time, which has to do with plagiarism and the climate change plan. There have been at least, there have been several instances at this point in time in the plan where passages were lifted from other sources without proper attribution. How did that happen?
Look, it was a staff-level error. It was not something the vice president was aware of, I would say, right out of the gate. And secondly, it was as soon as it was brought to our attention, we immediately amended it and added the citations. And I think, it's a bold, significant plan for climate change, to tackle climate change. And, as soon as the issue was raised, we fixed it.
Was telling a reporter that he supported the Hyde Amendment still for a story published on Wednesday a staff-level error, or was that something that the former vice president himself is behind?
The vice president makes his decisions about where he stands on issues. Those are his decisions alone.
Okay, so that was his answer to that question on Wednesday, and then there was a different answer last night.
He explained his position on this last night.
All right, Kate, thank you so much. Kate Bedingfield with the Biden campaign. I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.